the state of it in this nation is innately unfair and immoral. And this favorite Republican of mine said, well, it's all a matter of choice. And I can't discuss this with this person because I also have to make his breakfast, okay? It is my belief that he, like many people who say that it's a matter of choice, don't feel worthy. That for some reason, they think that because Donald Trump has $1 gazillion and because Doug Collins has $1.5 million in his war chest right now, they deserve it because that whole prosperity doctrine thing. And I had to explain to him that as a zygote, I chose to be born into a rich Irish family, and I didn't get it. So how do we make people understand that they are worth more than they are getting paid, even if the $20 and the $30 an hour doesn't compare to what's going on up there? How do we make people understand their worth?
I mean, I think one has to recognize that our worth is centered in the core of our humanity, which consists in our freedom, consists of being praised or blamed for what we are responsible for. Now, alas, we don't have control over our circumstances. We don't have control over who our parents are or what wealth they happen to have and can afford to transfer to us to cushion our way in the world. And admittedly, the market is a social institution where every action you take is something taken on the basis of a choice you make. You are not constrained to take a job. You choose to take a job. You choose to buy something. But that does not mean that all parties in the market have as many choices as one another. And the market is such that the moment you have enterprises that are seeking to make a profit, there's a dynamic of competition which requires firms to grow and consolidate in order to survive. And that means the market left to its own devices creates a fundamental imbalance between fewer and fewer, larger and larger enterprises facing more and more employees, and the employees have fewer options than their employers because of that very imbalance. And we have to take action to level the playing field, to even the balance. And that's something that I hope one can see by just thinking about the character of economic activity. And if you want to ask yourself, well, what is involved in ensuring that all our freedoms are respected and that we can, in a way, be judged according to what we have done in our own right, what we are responsible for, then we have to ensure that the opportunities to which we have any access are available independently of how much wealth we have. And you do that with regard to health care, with Medicare for all. You do that with regard to education at all levels, by ensuring that things are tuition-free. You do it in general with regard to all the things we need to have in order to lead a fruitful life, by not having means tests, by not dividing us into rich and poor, and in a sense stigmatizing the poor, but instead doing what we did with public education. It's available to everyone. It doesn't matter how much wealth you have. The same thing should be true about all the other things that we need to have in order to exercise our lives as independent human beings and to show what we are worth given what we do in our own right, not what circumstances have been thrust upon us by history. We lift the boot of history off our backs, off everyone's back, by fulfilling these rights, and in particular the social rights that have been ignored. And I think these as rights apply to everyone. They apply to our Republican neighbors. They are opportunities that everyone shares in. They don't consist of handouts. They don't consist of things given to them as opposed to us. They are rights, not privileges. Yes?
I agree with what you're saying. I personally feel that what I have seen happen since the media fairness doctrine was done away with and the decline in our national discourse, has been something that's hurt us tremendously. And so it goes back to what you were saying about people think that, they chose to live, made a choice to live the way that they're living, when not really, because they didn't really have the power of choice. They thought they did, but they didn't. So it's just one of these things where we're fighting a monolith of thought that has to do with worthiness and this kind of thing. And so it's going to be really hard to get people to understand this social bill of rights, which I've read several times, just going back and reviewing things, because what happened that things went so wrong in this, other than FDR passing way too soon, and the people who opposed the New Deal and everything that Franklin Roosevelt was accomplished during his tenure in office. So it feels like, again, especially since Fox News has so much power, that we are dealing with a mindset that's going to be incredibly difficult to overcome. So I want to hear how you plan to overcome it.
Let me point to two things. On the one hand, when one thinks about what it means to really provide everyone with opportunities, we're not talking about handouts.
Right.
We're talking about enabling people to stand on their own feet and exercise their freedom. And the idea of a job guarantee is basic to that, and is, in a sense, basic to fulfilling the American dream that it tells us that if you're willing to work hard, you should be able to support yourself and your family and dependents decently. And when you no longer can work, well, we'll maintain your standard of living. This is not a matter of making people dependent, as many parts of our welfare system do. In fact, it provides an allotment of opportunities which, in effect, would allow us to not have to spend the $1 trillion we do on welfare programs. We, of course, would save $1.7 trillion each year if we have Medicare for all and put our costs in level with the rest of the world. But I think there's another important aspect about our freedom in the political world, which has to do with political discourse as well. First of all, our politics is run in such a way that the right to run for office is not really a right. I myself, I'm a university professor, a tenured professor, but I'm an employee. And any employee who wants to run for office faces three huge problems. First of all, if they're running in a campaign where you've got to spend your time running, you have to give up your job. First, that means you have no income during the race. Secondly, you lose all the benefits that are associated with your job. And in America, unlike other countries, crucial benefits like health care and decent retirement plans depend upon having the job. You lose that. And in most cases, if you run, your job is not going to be waiting for you. As a tenured professor, I can get my job back after it. I'm on unpaid leave right now. So I don't have any income, I don't have any benefits. Many of our political offices, including in the State House in Georgia, are treated as part-time offices. Who can afford to become a state representative? When you have to go for 2 months to the Capitol, when it's in session, you're paid something that's not enough to live on for the year. What employee, and employees make up 95% of breadwinners in this country, what employees can actually exercise the right to run for office?
Not helping with my candidate recruitment here.
And then the other side of it is we ask ourselves, what kind of freedom do you have as a voter? Now, of course, we know about all the efforts to engage in voter suppression. And one that's not mentioned, which I think is crucial, is the way we take away the vote from people in prison. In the largest democracy in the world, and many other democracies, in India and many other countries, one never loses the right to vote. Politicians go into prison to campaign, and we should be doing that. But do the voters really have a choice if they can't find out about the candidates and what they stand for? Is there really any coverage that adequately lets the voters know what their choices are? And given the way in which money enters our campaign, that is another way in which our right to vote becomes empty. And we have to do something about all of that.
I have a friend that adds another little factor to the choices question. Like our zygote lady here, this might apply to you. And here the factor he adds is, he says life's a combination of the choices we make, and it certainly is, and the luck we have. You just weren't lucky enough to be born named Trump or something.
I think that's it.
She
When you
was
bring up-
very
yeah.
lucky not to be named Trump.
When you bring up luck, I think it's very important to keep that in mind, because when we speak about the fulfillment of rights, rights never expire. In other words, whatever happens to you, whatever happenstance affects your destiny, if we're going to respect the rights of people, we're going to ensure that they're always going to have a livelihood awaiting for them if they can work. And if they can't work, they're going to get decent benefits. On the other hand, if you receive a compensation for something that happened in the past as a way of remedying that, that's just limited to what happened then. It doesn't protect you for what happens in the future. But the enforcement of rights is something that is permanent, it's universal, and it, in a sense, overcomes any blockage of opportunity that may affect you, no matter what is caused. And it will continue. And that's what we should have.
I think we have time for one more question.
Yeah, one more
We
there.
have to move on to the next speaker.
I'm kind of a strategic hardball question, I guess, for this seat in particular. I like the idea of anybody running in a true democracy, and I enjoy watching Leffler and Collins tear each other apart and hopefully split the vote. But I'll vote for whoever, the Democrat seat is gonna be, and I guess multiple Democrats may be on there, and I worry about splitting the vote on our side, and if we have a runoff election, that benefits Republicans. And I know we have Warnock and maybe others running, and so,
Someone else announced today.
okay.
At Dartmouth.
Yeah.
So why you over them, I guess, would be my question.
I mean, I think generally, it's not enough to turn Georgia or the country blue. Because, we all have seen that Democrats have been in power nationally and statewide. And although they may be better than the Republicans, they still have not done enough to prevent us from being where we are today. And it's crucial that the voters have a chance to look at what the candidates stand for. Because there are differences. And we need to think about what are the real solutions. We're running out of time. This is the midnight hour. And especially with climate change. I mean, when I say we need to shut down the fossil fuel industry and consumption of fossil fuels by 2030, and that, of course, is extreme. But, when I was growing up, Kennedy was speaking about getting someone on the moon within less than 10 years. When my parents were young people, Einstein and Lazard had contacted FDR about, we've got to build an atom bomb before the Nazis do it. Here we're dealing with something that doesn't involve any fundamental technological miracles. We have everything we need to do it, but we need the political commitment to do it. And if we elect people who are not willing to take the measures necessary, we are inviting a catastrophe. So it's crucial that there be a debate about where we're going. Now, I'm not going to be a spoiler. There is a scenario that is very worrisome, that in this jungle election, as has happened in a different way in California, where in one such election, the two highest vote getters were both Democrats, and Republicans were shut out entirely. It's not inconceivable that the two highest vote getters could be Republicans. Not inconceivable. It depends upon how things are split. I do not want to contribute to that. But it may not take that form. It need not take that form. And again, I think it's important that the voters have a choice to debate the issues, and then we'll see how things stand. But I will not be a spoiler. But on the other hand, I think the real problem of spoiling will come from the group of candidates who pretty much are Tweedledum, Tweedledee, and who are dividing the same part of the Democratic electorate. I think if anyone needs to withdraw, it would be people who are not standing for anything different, but just have different identities or different histories.
Thank you, Dr. Winfield,
Thank
for
you.
that. Very good. Very good. Enjoy it. Hopefully